I'm Greg Jarrett, and you were in the strategy room as potential 2016 Republican candidates start to map out their potential paths to victory in the primaries. Election analysts are now continuing to debate if both Senator Cruz and Rand Paul will run for president. Will both candidates struggle to stand apart from one another? Here are a couple of political strategists with their take, Jessica Tarloff, Liz Peek. So, Jessica, you've observed a shift in sort of the attitudes and inclusiveness of Rand Paul?
I think so. I mean, I think that he's really making a run for being the inclusive candidate on the non-establishment side of the GOP primary there. I mean, he's talking about getting Hispanic voters, black voters. I mean, I don't know how far he'll go. I mean, I don't think that he'll sound like Hillary Clinton by the end of this, but I think that he realizes that you're going to have to, if you're going to build a winning coalition in 2016, You're going to have to include more people.
Well, I mean, I get the sense you think he's pandering for votes by changing.
No, I would not go. This isn't like a Romney flip-flop to me. I mean, I think we know less about Rand Paul, obviously. I mean, we know what he thinks about drones for sure. And I mean, what's been most famous is his foreign policy position.
Right.
So we're learning more about who Rand Paul is. And I mean, I think the voters are responding to some degree. I mean, he and Ted Cruz are still on the lower end of the pack. But if you look at the Real Clear Politics average right now, Rand Paul is about at 8%, Ted Cruz at about 4%. I mean, margin of error there in the threes. So we're talking about in the same field, but with a slight edge.
Liz, what's your take?
I think actually Rand Paul has always been inclusive. I think he has gone after, in particular, the millennial generation, particularly with his views on national security and the drones and internet spying and so forth. He made that a topic of importance way before anybody else did, specifically, I think, targeting young people. And if you look at the polling, the libertarian credo, if you will, really appeals to young people more than anybody else. And even back, I went to CPAC, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and he was talking, make the tent bigger, lift the tent flaps. I think he gets it that the Republican Party really needs to encourage a broader reach. Ted Cruz, not so much. I think what Ted Cruz has going for him is obviously he excites the base, the far-right voters who turn out for primaries. He's very effective with them. He did something recently that I like. I'm not a big Ted Cruz fan because I think his political maneuvering, obviously mainly shutting down the government in 2013, turned out to be really detrimental to the GOP party. But recently in Iowa, he came out against ethanol subsidies, which I got to hand it to him. He's the only guy who is willing to raise his hand and say, yeah, this is stupid. It's not necessary. And by the way, in Iowa, you do not do that because everyone's a farmer and they all love corn prices being high. So, he's definitely looking.
A savvy politician.
Yeah, well, he is, but that wasn't. I mean, that was sort of a differentiating moment, but not really good for the primary.
Not at that
Iowa.
moment, but I think in the long term, I mean, also when we look at, Chris Christie has obviously had a little tumble down in the polls, but what people liked about him that he was straight talking about his own opinions.
Yeah, so
and
maybe
Ted
that's
Cruz,
what Cruz is going
he's thinking,
for.
maybe I should think for myself here or do something that's a little counterculture and see where it gets me.
I wonder if we read too much into things like staffers jumping ship from
over
Ted
a year
Cruz
before,
over Rand Paul. Is it a sinking ship they're jumping from, or is it just normal?
I think it's just normal. I mean, people are building, and no one's even declared. I mean, we're going to have it in the next few weeks, so we're going to have this onslaught, of declarations. Right. But, a couple Cruz staffers going to Paul, I don't think that's a big of a deal, and I also think it makes good sense. If I was on that side, I would jump.
As I look back on it, Liz, there's always a lot of musical chairs going on among staffers and aides.
Absolutely, and these were Texans, as I recall, who moved. So what Rand Paul apparently has is a very effective nationwide organization, and he's been building that more effectively than some of these other folks. So it doesn't surprise me that he's sort of getting regionally potent people into those offices because he's way ahead of everybody else. And unfortunately, you may be the best candidate in the world. Look at John Kasich, who's getting a fair amount of attention from kind of smart people. He's not ready, and he's not out there. He doesn't have an organization, I don't think. And someone said, you have to run for president. You can't walk. And I think we've seen that in the last couple of elections. These sort of marginal guys just never kind of make it to the finish line.
Some guy who's not walking is Walker.
Yeah.
Governor Walker is really out there, not only making a lot of appearances, but really stepping up his organization.
I think so. I hope that he flames out. But, I think that he is stepping up.
Looking like a Democrat.
Well, that's
what Are you afraid of him?
Am I afraid of him? Do I think he's dangerous?
That's why you think...
Yeah, I mean, I'm really not into right-to-work laws, especially the way that he wants to do it. I think.
So you think Ted Cruz and Governor Walker are both dangerous?
I do. I mean, I think that a lot of people who are outside of the GOP establishment are dangerous people.
And you're laughing at that.
Well, no, I think Scott Walker is really interesting, and he satisfies one of my criteria, which is he's a self-made man. All the landslide victories in the history of the country have been self-made men, with the one exception of FDR. I think he can speak about middle-class issues, right. And that is very important in 2016.
We'll have to leave it at that. Jessica Tarlov, Liz Peek, good to see you both.
Thank you.
Check out foxnews.com for more on the 2016 race. I'm Greg Jarrett. Thanks for watching.